I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. A roll call, please.
It looks like we're mostly here. We're just missing Mr. Salvia at the moment.
Okay. Item number 4, approval of the agenda.
Like to move to approve the consent or the agenda as presented.
Support. You moved and supported. Vote, please.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
Cooper, yes.
Ms. Frederick?
Yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Hamel?
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, let's make sure I am recording. Okay, consent agenda approval.
I would move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Vote, please.
Mrs. Cooper?
Cooper, yes.
Ms. Frederick?
Yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Hamel?
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Next item is announcements and information. On October 21st, 2024, here at the Township Hall is going to be a screening for a film called Undivide Us. And the film is about, it says America's at a crossroads where politicians, traditional media, and social media fan the flames of toxic partisanship, undermine the values and institutions that unite us. Undivide Us is a timely and urgent plea to reclaim the nation's soul through open disclosure, civic engagement, and self-governance. Learn more about the film at https://undivideusmovie.com. And there's also, I don't know, any of these up on the, if you get these, there's a QR code in the back if you want to get more information on the film. Okay, early voting for November 5th.
Question real quick.
Yes.
Do we have any idea how long the movie is? That's all. I don't know. I have a chance to check it out.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't know exactly, but I do know that there's some planned discussion time afterwards. So
Okay.
people want to have interaction about
All right.
it.
Thank you.
All right, so early voting for November 5th, 2024 general election at the Township Hall is Saturday, October 26th through Sunday, November 3rd from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., except for Thursday, which is noon to 8 p.m. Fire Department Pancake Breakfast and Open House is Sunday, October 13th from 9 a.m. to noon at Fire Station number 1. That's this coming Sunday. Township offices will be closed Monday, November 11th in observance of Veterans Day. Ceremony will take place at 11 a.m. at Veterans Park. Okay, next item, public comment. Anybody have public comment? All right.
Rick,
Yes.
can I make a comment real quick?
Yeah. Hold on there, Kevin. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that the activity center will be hosting a health fair tomorrow from 9 to 3. It's free to come in. We'll have a bunch of people there. If anyone's interested, you can also get flu and COVID shots, hearing tests. We've got all kinds of things at the center going on tomorrow. So everyone's welcome to come on over and check it out.
All right. Say that date again.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. All right. Thank you. All right, Kevin.
I approach real quick with you guys on the
It'll light up when you, no, push it. It might be on.
Sorry. Not very tech savvy. Can I approach to give some information real quick?
Yes.
My name is Kevin Berger. My address is 3145 Oak Ridge Drive, Highland, Michigan, 48356. That's my one of my accidents I had done from when I was in the service. Good evening. My name is Kevin Berger of 3145 Oak Ridge Drive, Highland, Michigan, 48356. I came here tonight with bigger discussion to have. However, God works in mysterious ways. I learned of a board member with health issues, not too different from mine and my wife's. That being said, my daughter recently was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. My wife has brain cancer, and I have cancer and lung disease, which is no longer responding to treatment. That being said, the blight at 3138 Oak Ridge Drive was a problem before I moved in. This individual has also been banned from several local businesses. That being said, because of his conduct, it is difficult to enjoy your property when people are lighting explosives in front of your house, like in the pictures that I just gave you. Throwing them out the vehicle window into someone's property, scaring you and your kids and your wife at night. This is not the OK Corral. This is Highland Township. I have sent video evidence to Oakland County. They have seen it as well in the past, as well as to the township. Is video evidence still needed for investigations today? If ever there was a time to be empathetic and understanding going forward, this is the right time, sir. As I also understand what it's like to deal with major health issues. So please seize the moment, do the hard thing, which is also the right thing. Thank you. And then if I can just get that back when you guys are done looking through.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right, any other public comment? Push the button there. Right on top.
Oh, on the thanks. My name is Jacqueline Rhodes. I reside at 1450 South Milford Road in Highland, right across the street from the Comeback Inn. I am here before you this evening having cited ordinance chapter 17, section 1705 specifically. And that is because I submitted an application for an administrative appeal that was denied. And it was denied, understandably, because in that same, I have all my papers right here, but it's that same section. It says you've got to do it within 30 days. And that 30 days, Lisa explained to me, would have started on July 25th, which is when the building permit for the fence between Roadside Animal Hospital and our property, the permit was okayed. It was approved. The reason I'm here is to be able to speak my piece on that. I proposed that July 25th, yes, the permit was okayed, but I was told by the specific administrator, Carrie Line under Little Bear, that we had no space, no standing for an appeal. I'm going to be short on these things. Specifically, that the fence is built. It's beautiful. It's there. That's not my reason. My reason for being here is basically for the whole community, because what we encountered during this time, I believe that other people have encountered as well. I've spoken with other people that have been at the counter. My husband was military leadership. I'm in an education background, and I'm going to come right out and say my goal is not to get anybody fired, but I would like for Carrie to be more readily observed, to even be reviewed, and to have her learn more readily how to speak to the public. When I went up to the zoning counter, there's so many things that happened. I made over a dozen visits to the township. And the very end of it, fence is done. But I really would like her to be approached and to educated I understand that she doesn't have to be certified. I called MSU and found out about those different things, and it's recommended they get a certification 1 year after hiring. By that time, she's been there for about over 2 years, but because she's a coworker and basically in the same position as Lisa, she doesn't have to be certified. I had a number of occasions, like I said, I've been in there a lot, took a lot of pictures, that I brought things to her attention on blueprints, on prints, in ordinances that she was not aware of. It surprised her. She contradicted herself in statements multiple times, and she told other people that were involved in that fencing one thing and told us something else. 3 of us, contractor, my husband, and me, 3 different occasions, made comments. I'm not going to bring all those up in public right now, but that is the basic concern is she really needs to be educated, maybe even certified. But she's making a lot of mistakes. It's hurting a lot of people. I know Lisa asked me, she said, bring some of those names to me. It's been a couple of years because it was at the very beginning, but I know specific people who were considering property, considering building property, and even considering having businesses in Highland and turned away because of their specific dealings.
All right.
I'm-
Jackie, we have 3 minutes, and that was the ding dong there. So
Ta-da!
thank you, though. I appreciate it, and we will definitely look into this. Thank you. All right. Any more public comment? Yes, Anthony.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I guess I'll start my 3 minutes. Thank you. It's not a lot of time, but it's just enough. Just wanted to, first of all, say, first name is Anthony, last name's Ramondo. I reside in Highland at 2148 North Hickory Ridge Road. And at that address, I received this publication and just wanted to compliment those who had hands in putting it together. I thought it was a nice edition, and I'll continue to read it and look for the spring summer edition as it comes out. So with that, thank you to those who had a hand in it. Also wanted to recognize the Milford boys varsity soccer team as they completed the conference victory with eight wins, 0 losses, and 3 ties. So help me to congratulate them. Sorry to all the Lakeland students here, but also as a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals here in Highland and secretary, we will sadly miss John Jickling as he is not renewing his term. But we did want to recognize him for his service to the community and the Zoning Board of Appeals, and would ask that the Township Board also put together a resolution at a future meeting to recognize his service to the community. I also wanted to take a moment just to say thank you to those who have helped me over the last 6 months, including Joe Salvia, Tammy Flowers, Bob Hoffman, and all of the township residents. Also wanted to give a special recognition to Judy Cooper for her service to the community, both as a treasurer and as a township board member, trustee. So thank you. Also wanted to recognize the current township board trustees, Brian Howe, as well as Joe Salvia and Beth Lewis. Thank you for your service to the community and what you've done to make our community what it is today. And with that, I would ask and echo what others had said during public comment, that there is potentially a health and safety welfare crisis here in the township as it relates to blight and our ordinances that should be enforced, that many times are receiving a blind eye for other priorities. So I would ask this township board to continue to do their jobs and to follow up on concerns from residents to make our township even better for tomorrow. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for your positive comments. Appreciate it very much. All right, anybody else? All right, we'll move on. First item is a public hearing, Lower Pettibone Lake Special Assessment District. So we'll start the public hearing at 6:45 PM. Anybody here who would like to make a comment? Okay, so there's no public comment. That's we didn't even get a whole minute out of the public comment. So on that note, we'll close the public comment section and we'll move on to the next item, which is the resolution. I'll make the motion resolution to approve resolution 24-29, approving the assessment role for the Lower Pettibone Lake Aquatic Management Special Assessment District for the chemical treatment of weeds and related services pursuant to 1954 PPA 188 as amended.
Support.
All right, any discussion on that? All right, we'll vote, please.
Ms. Frederick,
Yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mrs. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. At our last meeting that we got together, it was for budget purposes. And the thing that I asked you all to do is to take your budgets home with you, the proposed budget, and to look through it and see if there's anything that you felt needed to be discussed or changed or have additional questions about it. So this is a discussion opportunity. So do we have any?
Will you explain in, under the general budget, under parks, there's money allocated, and then in, capital improvement, there's money allocated. Will you explain the
Right.
difference?
Yes, the smaller allocations are for general maintenance. You know, like mowing or fixing something that's, minor type of thing. And then the capital improvements are for things that are actually, asset related in terms of major projects or reconstructions, that type of thing.
Okay, and then the maintenance line item under the general budget is just for like garbage cleanup and
Yep,
that kind
yep.
of stuff. Okay. Thank you. And
Okay.
Downey Lake. That's over by the library, right?
Yeah.
Did you happen to have a conversation with the library about whether or not, oh, that was Chill at the Mill that we were talking about?
Yep.
If they were going to be involved in that at all?
We'll have to wait until we get the project completed so it has a turnover date. And then in that meantime, though, we'll have a discussion with the library board.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
So in that, you mentioned Downey Lake Park. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize is we have 23 acres to the north of the library. So there's the cell tower and there's 23 acres that are north of that are all natural. And a lot of people really like to walk their dogs and take walks in there. They're pretty sandy trails, but there is a need to do some trail improvements so that people aren't getting their eyeballs poked out with sticks and branches that are hanging over. So that's one of the projects. That's Downey Lake Park. And then there's also the park, the new park on South Hickory Ridge Road, South Hickory Ridge Park. There's some allocation in there for putting in some minor trails, parking lot, and some minor maintenance to keep things cleared for and safe for walking in that. But it's going to be a very, very much like the Downey Lake Park, very naturalized, not all kinds of improvements that can turn into money consumers. So,
But there'd be room for access.
yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right. If not, then this budget's going to move on to November when we make our final decision. There may be some, if I'm correct, correct me if I'm wrong, Tammy, there may be some minor changes in some of the wage type information, which we're still finalizing some things. Nothing that's going to change the bank or anything, so. Somebody wanted in there. So anyways, at the November meeting prior to, we'll have any of the final changes we'll have for your ability to be able to look at them well before the meeting. You have another question, Judy, or?
I'm looking at the refuse budget and the administration cost went down and the contract went up. So it doesn't. So I think it's probably just a clerical thing. Like I said, it's teeny, but it's on page
What
12.
page was that on?
12. And my understanding in the past was it was a percentage of the contract. So the contract went up and the administration fee went down, and I'm like, okay, that doesn't. Like I said, teeny. It's all about the details. You see what I'm talking about? It just, the administration fee went down from 24 to 25 and the contract amount went up. So it's a correction, I'm thinking.
Well, you get an answer on that one.
I mean, it's dinky, but might as well do it right.
Well, it went down from the actual.
I know, the whole line across is like, what?
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so we'll move on then. If there's no more questions. Okay, the next item is compensatory time. Tammy, you want to present that?
So this is an option that's only allowed to government units. Businesses can't do this. Everybody else is required to immediately pay out overtime. But a lot of jurisdictions offer this as a way for employees who are working overtime to bank those overtime hours, and they can save them for when they're sick or whatever, what have you. If people don't necessarily want, their taxes to get hiked on a particular paycheck because they worked a lot of overtime, they could just put their hours into a bank and use them later at the department head's discretion. I think this makes a lot of sense. We've been working a lot of overtime with the elections, and it will save the township money because instead of paying out time and a half, we can put all that into a bank and just have the employee use it as a day off. So I can answer any questions you guys have.
Let's do the process. You might want to make a motion.
Okay. Well, I will move to approve the language in the memo to be added to the personnel policy. That's it.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. Discussion. Jen, you have
This is
discussion?
for full-time employees only?
Correct.
Okay. And in the past, what did we have? Banked sick time, I think it was. And that was counted as a liability in the audit. So just to make sure that everybody's aware of that.
Correct. But in those days, the sick time bank carried on forever and ever, and it was never capped. And so the township had.
There was a cap on it.
Okay, so I looked at a report from 2015 when they paid it out, and there was an employee who had 180 hours of sick pay that had to be paid out because it was not, I don't know what the cap was, but it was more than 180 hours. So that added up to a lot. And then at that point, there was discussion about recording it as a liability because it was so much hours.
I have a comment. So when they get paid out, when they retire in 5 years, it'll be paid out at the rate of pay that they're getting currently, not what they earned 5 years before.
Correct.
So how would that save us money?
So, there would be a slight increase if they don't use their hours. Instead, they get them paid out, like if they retire and don't use their time. So say, the difference between when they earn the hours and whenever they get them paid out, if they do, if it's $5 an hour, and then, but the cap on the hours is only 48 hours. So the slight increase of $5 times 48 hours is not huge. I think most people will want to use their hours in like a time when their department is slower and have a day off.
So they can use those hours, not only the year they earned them, but any year up until they retire.
That's the way it's written.
And then when you say cap, that's not a hard cap. So
Well,
my understanding was if they earned 48 hours and then used 48 hours, they could earn another 8 hours
correct.
in that year.
The maximum bank amount is 48 hours.
at any time.
Right.
And as an employee that works in the office, I feel the employees should be paid out for their time, their overtime. And that, because staff would be affected with people being out of the office another 48 hours a year or more. And,
To the extent that I don't think in elections, they're going to earn 48 hours.
but this is not just elections. This is all overtime. Planning and zoning has overtime, building has overtime. That's my opinion.
So they would have a choice to be paid out or take the time, correct?
Right. It's up to the employee.
Okay. And if the office is short-staffed, could the supervisor of that department ask that they be paid out instead of taking time?
So they would
They still
just,
have a choice.
right. But you can control when they use their comp time.
Right. Okay.
So if they're saying, oh, I want to use a comp day next week, and you're like, sorry, there's a lot of people out. We got a lot going on. That's not a good time.
Okay. Thank you.
Personally, I think that the most efficient way to deal with it is to, if you work overtime, you get paid your overtime. And by setting into play this type of delayed payout requires more bookkeeping, more opportunities for conflict with individuals not being there when they should be there. I think it could be an employee issue. I don't think it's a horrible idea, but I think it's much better to just keep it simple. And as a general rule, we don't encourage or actually really expect people to work overtime. Now, there is cases where the planning consultants and the zoning administrator have meetings. And I think that the best case scenario is you earn the hours, you get paid the hours, it's done. There's no bookkeeping afterwards. It's a complete thing. So that's my opinion on it.
I have one more thing. If this does pass, I think it must be paid out annually. I don't think the comp time should ride year to year and be paid out at a higher rate upon retirement.
I know that's been talked about. We had some discussions earlier this year, and I thought about it pretty hard, but I feel like that would cause people there would be a rush on using your comp time in December when it's already a hard enough time to make sure you have enough coverage because of the holidays. And then you lose out on the opportunity for employees to have an extra, just an extra cushion if they, have a sickness or an illness. And sometimes you don't have a lot of PTO saved up. And this is one more way to take care of our employees to have an extra cushion to help them out.
Except that it doesn't go fairly across the entire employee bank, because there's only certain people that are actually ever going to get overtime. So it's really not a benefit to the employee group as a whole. It's a benefit to a couple of groups. It's probably a total of 4 people. And then you made a comment about how I was thinking of what Jennifer had said about if you paid out at the end of the year, and that seems to be an issue because then they'd have to use their hours. Well, if you get paid for what you work, when you work, then there is no issue after the fact because it's over, it's done. So then there isn't that after the fact trying to, oh, I got to get my time in before the end of the year. And it seems like the government entity has deadlines all through the year. And there's always something or somebody that can't leave because there's something that's come due. You got taxes, and in this year you got elections, and some years you have a lot of building permits and stuff that occur. So I think that, well, once again, I made my point. So
to address the point about making things fair for employees, you know, that had been brought up this summer, and at one point I dropped this idea because of that concern. And then recently I learned a part-time employee was allowed to bank hours secretly. And I feel like your concern about being fair was sort of blown away by that action that was taken. And so that's why I decided to move forward with this, because if a part-time employee is allowed to do it, then our full-time employees should be allowed to do it.
okay. Any other questions? Let's have a vote then.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
No.
Mrs. Cooper?
Cooper, yes.
Ms. Frederick?
No.
Mr. Hamel?
No.
It's 3 versus 3. So I guess that fails, right?
Doesn't mean it can't be revisited. So yeah, you do.
Somebody can make a motion in the alternative, and you can vote on that and see if that passes. You can leave it as a failed motion, at which point it can be brought back in.
That was my point. So I'm going to call it a failed motion, and it leaves room for further discussion. All right, the next item is awarding a bid for the Activity Center accordion doors. I'm going to make the motion to that Highland Township awards CDBG bid for 2 new accordion doors, room dividers at the Activity Center to Doors of Pontiac. We put the project out for competitive bidding according to CDBG requirements, and we received a single bid. The total cost for the project is $49,863. We have the following funding available from 2022 through 2024 to support the initiative. 2022, there's $20,121. From 2023, there's $20,231. And from 2024, there's $25,243.
Motion?
Well, it's a motion to approve it.
I second.
Okay, moved and seconded. No. Hey, Lisa likes some complex, let's get it all in there. So, any discussion on that? All right, then vote please.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
Cooper, yes.
Ms. Frederick?
Yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Hamel?
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Next item is township purchase of 2 used fire vehicles. It says fire trucks. In the budget, I had set aside for 2024, $150,000 for the purchase of certain variety of equipment for property maintenance and a couple of new vehicles, new pickup trucks. And we still have in that fund, and let's see, what do we still have $102,552, of which we did purchase other equipment and we purchased a used pickup truck. And then the fire department has purchased new vehicles, and instead of throwing those out onto the market for, to have somebody do a closed bid on and possibly end up giving them away, I asked the fire chief to find a comparables by using the Kelly Blue Book. And what this does is this helps to actually put resources back into the fire department by having them sell us the 2 vehicles. So we have a 2019 Dodge Ram truck, which is the chief's former truck, at $17,894, and that's a 2019. And then there's a 2016 GMC Canyon with a cap that's $19,801, a total of $37,695. The trucks are in excellent condition, and I think it what it ends up doing is actually solving the or filling the purchases I was looking to make. But instead of buying new vehicles, we've filled that with 3 vehicles, and essentially for $74,000, we've got 3 new trucks that are new used trucks. And then we'll put the 2 township trucks that are 2015s, I believe. We'll put those out for bid. And so that's the, you might want to make a motion on that.
I move to approve purchasing 2 used fire vehicles
Support.
for the amount. I don't have it in front of me. Up to $37,695.
Support.
Thank you.
Okay, any discussion? No discussion? All right, then a vote, please.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
Cooper, yes.
Ms. Frederick?
Yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Hamel?
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
All right, the next item is a master plan draft for release to the adjacent communities. I don't know if anybody else had any difficulty getting to this thing. But I'll see if I can get it up on the screen here. The problem is it's like 160. Well, if I can do this. Sharing. There we go. Okay, so what's happened is how many years is it, Beth? 10 years?
Just as a general overview, and so the students understand what you're talking about too. Land use in a township, generally you want to have an orderly development where residential properties are screened and shielded from more intense activities like industry. So in order to accomplish that, you start with a document that we call the master plan. And the master plan looks at all the it kind of looks where the township right now and what are the challenges and opportunities that are presented to us moving forward. What are the trends in land use? And it sets up different districts for, we can put intense commercial activity here along M59, or we can put the industrial activity up Milford Road. And then other areas around the lakes are protected for residential use. So our last time that the township went through the activity of putting that whole plan down on paper has been 20 years ago. It was considered a 20-year plan that expired in 2020. God bless her, Megan said we've been working on this for 2 years. We have been working on it since before COVID, and we've worn out a couple planning consultants in the meantime. Planning Commission has been working on this at least 5 years. And we've gone through a real outreach to the public to try to get some input from the residents as to, what do they like about the township? What are their goals for the township? What would they like to see in the township? What are their aggravations in the township? And we've taken all that information on top of all the data that we could gather about income, household size of the population, anything you can think of, inventories of what are the assets that belong to the township, like our fire halls, our parks, all that. It's all documented in one place. And the document that we are ready to release to the neighboring communities, to the utility companies, to any other government agencies that need to be able to interact with where we think we're going. It's ready for release. Doesn't mean it's ready to be approved, and it doesn't mean this is your first, only, and last opportunity to use it. But that's what you're looking at today, is a good solid draft of the master plan. Megan highlighted a couple things that she wanted to drive to your attention, because we didn't go in any extreme different path than when we've ever been before. The old plan is a good plan. It basically takes the concept of, you have a core of the community that is the spine, Milford Road and 59. That's where your commercial activities are. And then as farther you move out from that core, the larger the lot sizes get, the more you get to farming, the more you get to natural resources preservation. We didn't vary from that schema at all. There's very little map changing. One thing we did do is break apart what was one aggregated land use classification, which was for all the large lot zoning. And we've broken that into an agricultural zone and a rural estate zone, so that as we come up against different programs the state might have that are either opportunities or threats to our autonomy, we can say this is where the agricultural activity should be consolidated. So things like solar farms would be kept out of the high value woodlands and the large lot areas that we have around the lakes. They'd be more to where we already are doing a little bit of crop farming and that kind of activity. The other thing that represents a bit of a change is that we had considerable discussion about office land use, because you run across that often where somebody's in the zone that's currently classified as OLIC, office and low intensity commercial. They want to go commercial because they don't think they have a viable use for office space anymore. The Planning Commission's open to allowing those areas to transition into duplexes, attached single family homes, a residential, but a little more dense residential, so that it protects the neighboring single family residential neighborhoods that exist around that fringe of those, that land use category. Other than that, you're going to find they kind of stayed silent on the whole issue of, what will sewers do to us in the future? Because there's a lot of division in the group about whether they think sewers could ever happen or will happen. If we ever get to the point where we're ready to, yes, sewers are happening, we'll probably have to totally revisit the master plan all over again. This is a master plan calibrated on the idea that we probably aren't going to have widespread sewer system. It does acknowledge that we have a water system. I think that's the main changes. There's, like I said, probably 2 or 3 months more while it's out being reviewed by the adjacent communities. And yes, we occasionally do get some comments back that you can all take that opportunity to get more familiar with the plan. If you want to come in and sit down with me, come to the planning commission, ask some more questions, that's fine, so that you really understand the plan. But at the end of that review period time, there will be a public hearing. We'll see if it's anybody else in the public that wants to comment on the whole document as it's put together now. And then the way the State Enabling Act works right now, because you haven't passed a resolution that retains your right to be the approving body, it would be approved by the Planning Commission. So that's another thing you might want to think about in the next few months is, do you want to reserve the right to be the approving body of the master plan? If you approve the plan, whether it's exactly what's in front of you now or some version that's similar to it, that'll be the document that guides zoning decisions in the future. And hopefully you can use that to pick up to decide where some of your, other policies should be too, about regulations, things that end up in the general code or zoning regulations. So did anyone have specific questions about what they saw? I know Judy picked up something we missed. We were at this so long that we moved the fire station since the time we began the exercise and did reflect it on the map. But good catch.
There's also some stuff in the map that doesn't show up, like the school should be institutional, and the South Hickory Ridge Road, South Hickory Ridge Park should be identified.
I'm not sure you're on the right version of the map then. Yes, that page didn't get fixed. But that future land use map got fixed, but the facility page needs to be fixed. We'll fix that.
Yeah, that's just a point of view before you send it out.
We've got a little time to correct it. I'm still missing one of the wellhead protection areas. We're going to fix that before it goes out too.
All right.
I have a question about the ag versus rural residential.
Mm-hmm.
So it used to be all together and it was a large portion of the township. And now it's got the ag in 2 spots. And then the rest is rural. Was those properties like individually looked at to see that they were natural features? Or because they all seem similar lot sizes. I know there's a bunch of different ones.
That's a study of the land you cover, like, what's wooded, what's not, and just a kind of an understanding that, okay, these are around Knobloch Lake and these are people that are living there. It's not to say you can't have a horse, or you could technically do a crop, there. But it's the more commercial feeling agriculture. Like, for instance, the second spot you noted is up by Bob Hoffman's horse farm. Well, we know that's a quasi commercial kind of activity. Some of that's a placeholder for the future, that if you decided to dig deeper into the whole agritainment issue, which we haven't dug into really in depth in our zoning ordinance yet, maybe that'd be tied back to the areas that are identified as agriculture on the master plan, not the areas that are meant to be rural residential.
Okay, so at this point, we just need to make an approval to send it off to the,
Right.
all right, then, if there's no more discussion, then I'll, make the motion that, the planning, director, make any corrections or changes necessary to, fulfill the questions we had. And to prepare the plan for distribution to the other governmental entities.
Support.
It moved and supported. Vote please.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Ms. Frederick,
Yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mrs. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Hamel,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right, that's it. So
Can I just say one more thing?
yes.
I don't know if you've noticed, but our auditorium has been insulated and there's a lot less echoing. And I think it's great. No, it was frosty.
So there used to be a sheep farm in Highland. They're in the clouds.
And one more thing, Tigers 1-3-0. Just in case you want that.
There you
They
go.
did. Top of the ninth inning, we scored all 3 runs.
All right.
Coming home Wednesday, 1-1.
And one more thing, I just want to tell the board, you got probably the hardest working planning commission that we've had in the entire time I've been here in 25 years. So you've really got a top-notch planning commission who looks at these issues deeply, and hope you appreciate them.
I want to also acknowledge that we had quite a turnover over the last 4 or 5 years, and I think the turnover is we've just really gotten some high-end individuals to be able to take those on. We managed to get the architect that built our building and lives in Highland. It's on the planning commission. Individual that used to be on Wixom's planning commission, which gives a pretty broad perspective of communities that are in a different growth pattern. We've got business owners. It's just really a pleasant blend and a very intelligent group. So I want to give them kudos. So on that note, meeting adjourned.